Hello.
Hello, Ben Ward.
Hello, is that Jeff?
Is this? Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Fantastic.
How are you?
How are you tonight?
I'm okay, yeah, not too bad. Yourself?
Very well. I'm so excited to talk to you, man. You're one of my
Yeah, me
favorite
too,
cats.
And well, the feeling's mutual here, Jeff, so.
Well, I've got a couple of fun questions here, and the main thing is setting up some news for you and your bros for
Okay.
April, I think, is when it's going to get rolling. Maybe something before that. So let's get rolling this way.
Yeah.
It's pre-recorded, so we're just shooting the shit. I just cracked a Belgium white ale.
Oh, very nice. I'm on the Danish Carlsberg exports.
All right. Carlsberg Exports. The big elephants, I remember.
Oh, that's the strong stuff, the
I
elephant
remember
beer.
them, yeah, all our roadies barfing out of the bus.
Yeah, it's a common occurrence with that beer.
Let's go with this new Orange Goblin news. We're talking with Ben Ward. What's going on with Orange Goblin right now in 2012?
Well, we're about 2 weeks away from releasing our 7th studio album. It's the first one for a new label, Candlelight, so we're very excited. So far, all the press has been very positive, which is always exciting. And then there's going to be a lot of touring and festival shows throughout the summer. So, yeah, we've got a busy year ahead, and it's exciting times.
Great, man. And this is called A Eulogy for the Damned, is that correct?
That's it, yeah, A Eulogy for the Damned, yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And that's your 7th record. Awesome. What are your views on it? Is it a kind of... There's so many cool sounds from Orange Goblin. Like, you'll go through Time Traveling Blues. You have this such a sweet, smooth tone and that, and then you'll go all the way, like the next one, Big Black, is just hammers our heads open.
Yeah,
what do you think about it, is sound and the style of this?
I think it's probably a perfect representation of everything we've done before. It's got a mixture of the lot. You know, there's some really sort of crushingly heavy stuff that you most likely find on the Big Black. Songs like Death of Aquarius and The Fog definitely got that sort of heaviness. Then there's sort of really nice groovy stuff that Time Traveling Blues had on songs like Bishop's Wolf or Red Tide Rising. There's some mellow sort of laid back, almost southern rock sort of stuff like Save Me From Myself and the title track Eulogy for the Damned. So yeah, we've mixed out. You know, we're a band that have a lot of contrasting influences. Our drummer Chris comes from an old school sort of hardcore background. He grew up listening to, you know, Band of Brains and Minor Threat and Black Flag and all those kind of bands. You know, obviously Black Sabbath is the common ground for us, but you know, there's a lot of doom influence as well. And our guitar player Joe, he's a child of the 60s and 70s, grew up listening to Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page. So, you know, we try and put a little bit of everything in, and I think our sort of best way of describing it is by ripping off everybody, we've created something quite unique.
Oh, I wouldn't go there, man. That's funny, though. No, I think a lot of people have ripped you guys off in the years gone by. You guys definitely have your own thing, and it's fucking
thank
awesome.
You for saying so.
Extremely dynamic. Fucking love it. Hey, let's ask you some personal questions of your music life and your regular life that you do. So that's our second little level here. What made you start in music, and how did it all go about for you? I ask this question to everybody. Actually.
Well, when I left school, I went to play football, or soccer as you call it in America, and that's where I met Martin, the bass player. And after 2 years of playing sort of professional football, we kind of fell out of love with the game, and we got a mutual sort of love of heavy metal and drinking beer, and decided we wanted to move in that direction. So, you know, we knew some friends that could play guitar. We all started hanging out and, you know, sitting around all day listening to the bands that we loved, and we're like, well, we could do this. And, you know, before we knew it, Martin had never played bass before, went out and bought a bass. and learn from scratch. And I said, well, I can't play an instrument, but I'm happy to sort of front the band. And everything just sort of came together. It was odd. We went for a couple of drummers before we found Chris, but I never in my wildest dreams when I was at school did I ever imagine I'd end up playing in a band that's toured the world and released 7 albums and that sort of thing. So, it was just one of those things that we made a decision one day to go for it. And I think even then, we thought we'd make a demo and perhaps play at the local pub a couple of times, and that'd be it. But, it just sort of snowballed, really. We started writing our own material, and people like Lee Dorian from Rise of Barnwell Cathedral got interested, and it was great. And I don't regret it for a single minute. It's been fantastic. I've seen the world. I've met great people. I've been to great places, and I get to get a holiday with all my best friends and get paid for it and get free beer.
That's great. That's how I felt. That is awesome. What a cool way to talk about it. In your regular life, strictly music oriented, or do you have to do other things? Do you have other trades or arts or other things that you do during the day?
Yeah, I mean, all of us in the band have to work day jobs because unfortunately we don't earn a living from Orange Goblin. That could have been the case sort of 10 years ago, but these days we all have families and children to look after, so we can't just sort of go off on tour for 6 or 7 months of the year, which is a shame. But I'm lucky myself that I work sort of in the music industry. I'm a music management company, and we look after a few artists, so it allows me to look after Orange Goblin affairs as well. I really enjoy that. The other guys in the band, that drive vans and work in offices, and one of them's a gas engineer, and it's just pretty sort of regular, ordinary things. And I think stuff like that, it kind of helps you keep your feet on the ground as well, because you can still relate to your average Joe. You're not sort of in this bubble that I can imagine, bands of Metallica's size and Iron Maiden, I'm not saying that they're, big heads and got ideas above their stations, but it must just be a completely different world that they live in. So, in that respect, I don't really envy them for that, because I like being able to sort of go to the supermarket and walk into my local pub and not be recognised everywhere you go. So, it's like I say, not making a living of it is a good way of keeping yourself grounded and having a sort of affinity with the punters and the fans.
Yeah, total affinity. I think that's cool. A lot of people think there's no shame in that at all. I mean, that's the story of all of us in trouble, man. Kind of fighting that throughout our whole career and stuff. Awesome. Let's do this. Let's toss your band members around.
Yeah.
So what I want to do here, Ben, is we'll talk about Joe, Martin, and Chris. What would you say is, so we're talking about Joe Hoare, right? Is that how you say it?
Yep. I have to be careful what I say.
Is Joe a whore?
No, he's not at all. He's a happily married man, and he's that's what I was going to say. He's married to my girlfriend's sister, so he's almost like my brother-in-law.
So now I'm going to get my ass kicked when I...
It's a little bit incestuous, really, isn't it?
Well, there's no W, I noticed. There's no W.
I mean, Joe's, he is the perfect example. If you looked up in the dictionary what the perfect family man is, then it'd be a picture of Joe, because he's he's dedicated to his wife and his kids, and he's a fantastic father and everything, and he's sort of a million miles away from what you see Joe's like when he's on tour, because he likes to have a drink and he enjoys himself, but
awesome.
He knows how to behave, but he's a little bit of a crazy man sometimes.
That's great. Are there any special stories about him on the road, or anything that's happened that cracked you guys up?
I mean, there'd be far too many to mention. I think the first time we ever toured America sticks in everyone's mind, because there was, I think it was 7 of us in one of those sort of 8-seater people carriers, driving right across America. And the first night we got there, we played in New York City, and the next day we had to get to Richmond, Virginia. So, I mean, as you know yourself, that's a hell of a drive. And Joe, who hadn't slept on the plane or anything, decided the best way to do it was to drink a huge bottle of Jack Daniels. And as we reached Virginia, he was like getting aggressive with everyone, trying to fight everybody in the van, until eventually he just passed out. And, you know, he suffered the ultimate humiliation that everyone that passes out in that situation. He had his drawings all over his face, his shoelaces tied together, all that sort of thing. But there's some great photos of him as he was lugging away at this bottle.
That's great. Let's move on to Martin Millard, bass.
Yeah.
What's his? What would you say about him?
Martin's the guy I've known the longest in the band. You know, if I was to get married, then Martin would be my best man.
Wow.
He's the one that sort of I struck with friendship when we was playing football, and you know, like I say, we had this mutual love of Metallica and heavy metal. And within the band, I guess you'd say he's Mr. Sensible. I don't know, are all bass players like that? They're the sort of Mr. Reliable, the one that while the rest of us are getting out of control, he'll remain calm so he can sort of focus on what needs to be done and that sort of thing.
The end whistle.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, you know. But, you know, mine's a great guy again. He's very hard-working and committed to his family and things, so... you know, he's no different from anyone else in that respect. But, you know, he's a fantastic bass player as well. I don't think he gets anywhere near the amount of credit that he deserves because, like I said before, he picked up the instrument the day we decided to start the band. He'd never played it before. And he's learned from scratch, playing with his fingers, the old geezer Butler way, and he's developed into one of the best bass players around, I think. So, you know, it's fair play to him.
He's got a great sound. He, that... gritty, bitey, dirty sound, and then clean when you need it. You guys have, I love that stuff, dude.
Yeah, he plays a classic old Fender Jazzmaster through the Sans amp pedal into an orange amp.
Nice.
And it took him a long time to find the right amp, I think, because he had a habit of blowing them up for quite a while. He was trying out all these Ampeg SVTs and things like that. Eventually, we discovered the orange was the right way to go, and yeah, he's got a great tone to that.
He was able to get maybe that distortion he needed that he wasn't getting on cleaner
That's
amps.
what I think, yeah, because I think he was getting to a certain point of the distortion and just blowing the heads in the past. This orange one, you know, he can achieve his sound with only on about 4, I think.
That's great. Martin Millard, we were talking about there. How about Chris Turner on drums?
Chris is the eldest in the band.
He's the geezer?
He is, yeah. He's a very rare thing in the rock world, and he's an ultra-intelligent drummer. In his teenage years, he actually went to college and got himself a degree in astrophysics.
Wow.
So, you know, there's not many drummers in the world that can claim that they've got that. But yeah, Chris is very intelligent. I mean... You know, when it comes to making decisions in the band, Chris is always the first one I go to because he's very sensible, and he's, you know, like I said, he comes from a punk background, so when he was young he was playing in bands that were playing toilets and things years before we even thought about starting a band, so he's got a lot of experience and a lot of nous in certain areas, and again, he's moved away from London with his family now, so he's a bit further from us, about an hour and a half drive to where he lives, but he's got a wife and 2 sons that he lives with, and you know, again, hard-working fella. But they're all great fun to be around when we go away with the band. Like I say, this band isn't like 4 musicians that got put together. It's kind of like a brotherhood, really. And I guess that's probably why we've sort of stuck around as long as we have. We've seen bands come and go, and we've just always soldiered on, and people are always asking us what the secret to that is, and I guess it's just that we have fun. You know, we don't get on each other's nerves too much.
That's great. That's totally. I think you can even hear that in how tight you guys are. You know.
Yeah, I mean, especially with this new album, I guess we've got to know each other's styles and the way we work so much over the last 15, 16 years that it's almost like second nature. If Chris comes up with an idea for a riff, then Joe will know exactly what needs to go next, and it makes writing so much easier. And it's a pleasure to work with them guys.
That's awesome. And on that, we're going to do something quickly through all 7 records, your discography. What we'll do is, Ben,
Okay.
I'll say this. I'll go, hey, Frequencies from Planet 10.
Yep.
Just say one thing about it that stands out, and we'll just do that through the thing. So let's do that. Frequencies from Planet 10. What stands out to you, and maybe the other mates as well, what they would think.
I think Frequencies from Planet 10, it makes me think of kids in a sweet shop, because that's exactly what we were like. You know, it was our first time in a professional studio, and we were wide-eyed, young, enthusiastic, going in there like, what's this button do? What's that button do? And experimenting with sounds, which is probably why that album's a bit more psychedelic than any of the others. It was just great fun, and obviously we'd had the material written for the album a long time, so you know we was ready to get in there. And you know, there's a lot of songs we don't play off that album live now, but I stand by it. And for the time it came out, I think it's a great record.
Oh yeah, totally. How about Time Traveling Blues then? The second one, 1998.
Time Traveling Blues was, I guess, we was finding our feet a little bit more as a band. It was the first album that Chris had sort of been involved in from the start, so he had a lot more input on it.
The astrophysicist right there.
Yeah, that's it. And we went up to Nottingham and recorded and stayed with a band called Iron Monkey, and that was just an adventure in itself. It was crazy times. There was a lot of drinking going on. There was some real chaos there with coming home from the pub late at night and going all over Nottingham, drawing rude symbols on dentists' windows and things like that. Just all these other really mindless, ridiculous things. But it was a fantastic time. It was probably that album that was the one that helped us break through and make a name for ourselves. It was on the back of that album that Cathedral took us out on tour and stuff. So, you know, there was a lot of good times associated with that record.
It's a great record, man. Some of my favorites, and The Man Who Invented Time. Yeah. Oh, love that song, dude.
There you go. Chris found that sample there of the guy that says he astral projects.
So it's about a guy you met or something that says
it's actually on some skateboard video, I think, and there's some drunk guy saying that he travels through time and things.
Awesome. All right, then the next one, which I'll interject the Big Black, which contains a very fun track at the end that I love to play to all my workmates. I go, listen to this guy.
Yeah, that is actually a very, very true recording from a day that my mum plays darts. She's a really talented dart player. Mm-hmm. And she said to me, do you fancy a day away at the darts? I was like, yeah, okay. What does it involve? She's like, well, we have to be at the pub at 7:30 in the morning. I was like, I'm in. So, you know, the drinking started early, we went away, and I don't know if you've ever been to a darts tournament, but all there is to do is sit and drink beer and watch these huge fat guys playing darts. So by the time I got home, I was very well refreshed and thought it'd be a good idea to phone Martin. And as you can hear through the course of the messages, I'm getting drunker and drunker to the point of almost being incoherent in the last one, and just a series of burping and hiccups. And it's quite disgusting, really. But yeah, I mean, I think that message is actually very indicative of that whole record, because Billy Anderson came over to London to record it. He was here for 3 weeks, and it was utter carnage for the whole 3 weeks. We just, you know, we were drunk the whole time. There was going out to the club when we should have been at the studio working. I think Rise Above must have been pulling their hair out, but we had a fantastic time, obviously.
That's got alcohol fuel on it, right? I mean,
yeah, that's it. Yeah. And, amazingly, we managed to get the job done, and I think it's probably my favourite Goblin album if I look back over those early ones, and I'm very proud of it. And like I say, I think the pride comes from the fact that we actually managed to get it done at all.
It's my favourite album.
And it was actually it was written.
All, but man.
It was all written within the space of 5 days inside the back room of a pub. So we should give ourselves a pat on the back for just doing that.
Yeah. That's you can hear that it come into songs. Like in the middle of a song, you'll hear you and like glasses clinking and people cheers.
Yeah.
It's awesome. What a great record. Coupe de Grace, 2002.
Yeah, I guess by this stage we'd kind of wanted to distance ourselves from this whole stoner rock scene that was prevalent at the time. Not because we was against the music, but just kind of sick of that tag being so restricted, and we just wanted to show that there was another facet to the band. And Chris's influence, I guess, is prominent on this one, which is why it's a lot more punkier and rawer. We got Scott Reeder from Caius and Obsessed to come over and produce it. And it was like a dream come true working with Scott, and he was so enthusiastic. And obviously John Garcia from Caius as well sang on that. That was awesome doing it. We told Scott that we wanted it to sound a lot raw, almost like a live Motorhead album, if you like.
Wow.
And in that respect, he did a fantastic job. He made it sound exactly how we wanted it. But when it came out, it kind of split our fan base a little bit. A lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't, and they see that as sort of the parting of the ways from the traditional Orange Goblin sort of early sound and what we've moved towards now, the more metal kind of approach. But it was just a natural thing for us to do, and I don't regret it at all. I'm very proud of that album, and I think it still stands up today. There's a lot of great riffs on there.
Awesome. Scott Reeder is quite an awesome guy too, man.
Yeah, he is. We was lucky enough to get to go out to his ranch last summer when we toured the States.
Oh, great.
We was driving from Arizona into LA, and obviously just jumped off the highway and popped in to see him, and him and his wife did us barbecue and gave us loads of beers. These amazing Pacifico beers that we'd never had before.
Cool.
So we're a real big fan of them, and the perfect host and a great guy.
That's great. Let's move on with Thieving from the House of God, 2004, 2 years later.
Yeah, well, this was the first album as a four-piece after the departure of Pete. Pete, I think, had enough after the first US tour we did. I don't know whether it was Joe's antics on that first night with a bottle of Jack Daniels that did it, but I think by that stage we could tell that he'd achieved everything he wanted to do, and he was a very serious and talented artist, and he wanted to go off and follow that. So
and that's Pete O'Malley.
That's right, yeah. And I don't think seriously it ever crossed our minds to call it a day when he left. And I don't think we ever really contemplated getting another guitarist in. We felt that we would be fine as a four-piece with just a one guitar. It worked for Motorhead, it worked for Black Sabbath, so it was like, why can't it work for us? And looking back, I think that was probably the best thing we ever did, because it freed up Martin as a bass player, and it freed up Joe to do a lot more with his guitar work. And that was essentially the birth of the Orange Goblin that we are now, I suppose.
Yeah.
Recording-wise, we did that again with Billy Anderson. He came over. It was a little bit more subdued this time. It was a bit more professional in the studio. I say a little bit. it was not straight by a long way, but again, it's a strong collection of songs, and I think we could have done a few things a little bit better here and there, but I'm very happy with it in the long run.
Isn't that, though, how you always feel when you get done?
Oh, yeah. Like, I guess every musician that's ever recorded anything probably listens to it back a few years later and says, I could have done that better, I could have done that. And, we'll never attain perfection.
Like Hendrix, Purple Haze, he gets done, it's,
Yeah.
Healing Through Fire.
That was a bit of a change for us, because it was the first album on a new label.
Sanctuary.
We parted with Rise Above, and there was no acrimony over that at all. It was perfectly a friendly decision. Lee wished us all the best in our way, because we just wanted to try something new by that stage. And, we'd had a great time with Rise Above Records. They treated us really well and gave us a huge huge footing in the industry and helping us on our way. So, yeah, we signed with Sanctuary and recorded in London with a guy called Mark Daghorn, and looking back now, I'm kind of not 100% happy with the production on that album. I think it could have been a lot better, because I think the songs on there are actually phenomenal. They're some of the best material we've ever written. But we tried something new with regards to the concept as well, because we did a whole album based around the plague and the subsequent Great Fire of London, which was interesting to a point, because we went on all these historical walks around the city and found out all these amazing facts about our local history and everything. So it was great in answer, but as a lyricist, it was quite challenging to write a whole album around one subject. So I don't ever really want to do that again. But no, I love that album. And the tour was great, but no, I'd never want to have to limit myself to writing about one subject for 10 songs again.
Well, that's pretty cool. Healing Through Fire then meant it was part of that historical, the Fire of London in, Jesus, what was 16th century? Because there's a lot of plagues. Yeah, wow, okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of disease and crap like that here in London. Not much has changed, to be honest.
Awesome. And now this is pretty unique, because now we land on what this interview is about. We're here at this point. We're bringing out new material. A fresh new tour will be coming in April. So we have a eulogy. For the damned. Yeah. What's the deal with that? What's it all about, and what's it gonna be like when we see it?
Well, it's, I say 10 songs that aren't all based around the same subject. I had the freedom to write what I like, and I guess the subject matter of the whole album is various things, depending on what books I was reading, films I was watching, what wine I was drinking, that sort of thing. There's some stuff on there influenced by, I went through this phase of being fascinated by the kind of the Hells Angels and the hippie scene in San Francisco at the end of the 60s, and the whole way it kind of built up to the Altamont incident with the Rolling Stones concert and all that kind of thing. That's kind of what the death of Aquarius is about. It's like the end of the hippie age because of, what happened there, and it was kind of the birth of Black Sabbath and everything. And the end of Flower Power, more about dark and doom and that sort of thing. So there's a song, The Fog, which is obviously a tribute to one of my favourite films, John Carpenter's Fog. There's Red Tide Rising, which is lyrically based on a mixture of stories by H.P. Lovecraft, all the sort of Cthulhu sort of weird stuff rising from the deep to destroy the planet, and elder gods and all that sort of thing from other dimensions and crazy stuff. There's Bishop's Wolf, about a book I'd read about a band of thieves that had stolen gold from the church, and they had this curse put on them called the Bishop's Wolf, where they were convinced that they were being hunted by this wolf, but the wolf doesn't actually exist. It just plays on their minds to the point where it drives them insane, that they can't sleep, and they end up committing suicide and that sort of thing. So I thought that was a good sort of subject matter for a heavy metal song. There's, a bit of everything on there. Acid Trial, again, that goes back to the days of sort of Tom Wolfe and the Hells Angels experimenting with acid and LSD in the late 60s and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think lyrically and musically there's a lot of variation on there, and I think Orange Goblin fans in general are really, really going to like this album. And people that have never heard us before, I think there's something on there for everyone as well.
Great. Will the States see it, or will we have to go to festivals in Europe, do you think, just because of work?
There's talk at the moment of the possibility of popping over to the States at some point this year. I'm not sure how extensive or how many shows that'll involve, but if it doesn't happen this year, then I'm pretty certain it will next.
Great.
you know, we was over last year in May and June and managed to get 14 shows, but, you know, I don't need to tell you how vast the US is and how long you actually need if you want to do a proper tour and hit up everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, hopefully next year we can afford to get back and play a bit more shows, get to places we didn't do last year, and it'd be nice if we can get north of the border up into Canada as well, because we've never been there, and possibly down to South America at some point as well.
Yeah, that would be important. Toronto, major heavy fans.
I mean, we get a lot of people on things like Facebook telling us we've got to come to Canada. Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa.
Oh yeah,
they're all sort of places.
The West, yeah.
People really want us, yeah.
It is vast. It's a lot of territory to cover in a short amount of time. Those tours are grueling. Sleeping, trying to drive. Oh,
yeah.
Jeez. On that, what would be a fun thing I just thought of with that touring?
Yeah.
Where do you think the most Orange Goblin style fans? Where do you think they would reside in the United States, Canada, and we won't go to South America and that, but like United States and Canada, where do you think they reside, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, we've had good times all over America, but my funniest story was we did a show, I think it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And we'd just come off stage. There was a guy hanging around outside the backstage entrance. So I was standing outside having a cigarette and everything. And came over there with a thick southern drawl. And was just like, looked up at me. Here you are, I'm a big guy. I'm about 6'5". He looked up at me and was just like, damn, what are you going on being all tall for? I was like, not like why are you so tall, just what are you being so tall for? It was being that sort of summed up that sort of tour for us. It was brilliant. So I guess, yeah, I'm going to go with that sort of dude. From North Carolina down to Texas, I guess.
A far passage from Chris Turner in astrophysics right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, let's do this. I changed gears 2 more times. We have to do something sort of slightly off kilter. Usually it's humorous, but you're an extremely humorous person. But this one I'm going to do with you. I've done a lot of different things. The first thing that pops into your mind when I say, and I'm going to do 5 different words or phrases or concepts.
Yeah.
And you just answer it. It's almost like we just did with your albums.
I'm going to apologize in advance.
That's all right. So, number 1, Sabbath.
Greatest band of all time. My sort of sole purpose for being into heavy music.
Awesome. Here's number 2. Don't be mad, but Windsor.
Windsor?
Yep.
As in the household and the royal family. I'm not a massive fan of the royal family myself, but I appreciate that they bring a lot of tourism into this country.
Awesome. On that note, favorite king?
It'd have to be Henry VIII, wouldn't it? Anyone that can get away with having that many wives, and when you get fed up with them, cut their heads off, he's fine by me.
Dude, the Tudors. All right, awesome.
Yeah.
4, freedom.
I don't know. I think it's a forgotten word in the world we live in these days. It's something that's disappearing rapidly. Our freedom of pretty much everything. Freedom to go to the pub and smoke a cigarette inside, gone.
Oh, yeah.
The only amount of time till freedom of speech goes. And it's crazy, you know, when you look around, there's some guy that's gone to prison for downloading Michael Jackson's music and he gets 20 years in prison or something, and the doctor that killed him only gets 4. There's something not quite right there. 20 years for downloading his music and only 4 years for killing him.
Wow. That's what first came into your mind. That's huge. Huge. And lastly, hootenannies and ribald ballads.
Hootenannies? Well, the first thing that springs to mind is Jules Holland, because in this country he's on television every year doing this New Year's Eve show called Hootenanny. And he's one of the artists that I work for, Jules Holland. So
Oh, really?
I'm involved in that quite heavily each year, and normally have to attend. So I get, the privilege of being in a hot studio under all them lights, listening to turgid pop music over and over again for about 4.5 hours.
I have this old book that's Body Songs and Backroom Ballads.
All right, okay.
And it's 42 of America's liveliest folk songs, ribald and rowdy. That's... thought you'd get a kick
in this
of that.
country, see, Jules Holland has completely hijacked the word hootenanny, and that's all that anyone ever thinks of now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I like that because of your one of your other secret tracks there that don't expect much. Phone call. Oh, don't expect much. That was pretty funny. Love it. I liked it. I expected a lot. I thought it was a great part of the record there.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So, Ben, lastly, this is what we ask everybody. It's the conclusion to the whole world out there, because it's internet broadcasting and stuff. I do not play music anymore, except maybe I'm going to put... What I do is I'll be sneaking in your music underneath us here and there. So that... and then when we do play a whole segment... we would pay royalties, but right now it comes on, we just go online. A lot of people are sort of playing music for free for people, and I did for a while, and I just can't do it anymore. I just feel like I'm not paying the people for great music they need to be paid for. So we're going to throw it in artistically into the interview. So lastly, this internet question is, to the whole world out there, what would you like to say to the entire world right now?
I'd like to say a massive thank you to everybody that's continued to support Orange Goblin over the last 16 years. It's been a pleasure, and that's mainly down to the people that go out and buy the albums and come to the shows. I'll apologise for the 5-year wait between albums, but I can guarantee, well, I can't guarantee, but I'd like to assure you that I think that when you get the album in your hands, you get home in a couple of weeks, stick it on, you'll agree that it was worth the wait. So, again, cheers to everybody.